Yeah, hi Kanishk. So we will go through your profile and have a discussion around what sort of experience you
Yeah,
have and the skills that you bring. So just brief about yourself a little bit, the skills and the experience and day-to-day responsibilities that you manage. Meanwhile, I will uh,
yeah,
get your
sure,
resume.
sure. Okay, so myself, Kanish Vijay Varghya, I have completed my BTech in Computer Science from Reva University in 2021 and currently working as a technical consultant in BirlaSoft. And my day-to-day responsibilities are like I'm working as a technical consultant for an Oracle application domain in the BirlaSoft, where I need to manage the application, works with the cross-functional team like business team and various developers and testers. So there I need to help in the configuration of the application. I need to prepare the reports and help in the integration services to manage the application. And actually I need to work in the backend profile continuously with the teams and manage the overall deployment and development of the application. And also my team is also responsible for planning the cutover plans for integrating the new services in the application or implementing any upstream and downstream application.
Okay. Any
Yeah.
involvement of any cloud platform in this day-to-day
Yeah,
activity?
so actually I have also supported in the cloud platform like AWS. One of the migration was taking place in the application. So that workload is migrating to AWS. So I have given my support in that AWS migration.
The Oracle workload were migrating from on-premise to AWS.
Right. And some are also on the OCI as well,
Okay.
Oracle Cloud Integration
Oracle
and
premise.
AWS. Yeah.
Okay. And how long this project has been there? August till now.
Yeah, it's still going on. Like this is a support kind of project, so it's still going on, where we need to do migration and help with
Okay.
the business team. Yeah.
Okay. And before that, you have worked in DevOps related projects as well.
Yeah, this was a training project and some internal project actually. This is
Okay.
so yeah. So I have given a small task and I have worked on that.
Okay. So where are your core skills? Are they in Oracle migrations or Oracle apps, etc.? Or
Uh,
is it
so So actually, my core skills are aligned with both the things actually, because in the current organization, I have given the opportunity to work in Oracle, and I have got some trainings as well in the organization on uh, DevOps tools and technologies. So, so those two things are like coming up hand to hand and working along with
okay?
that.
And what are you looking in future? What kind of roles you are expecting?
So
What's
I
your plan?
Yeah, so actually, I'm interested in looking for the DevOps engineering role or cloud engineering role, anything like because I have worked on the AWS as well and DevOps tools as well.
Okay. All right. And these are some of the tools and technologies that you have worked on: Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, Ansible. What level of expertise you have in these?
Like Docker, I know Docker and Jenkins, I know like how to set up the CI/CD pipeline for the application from top to bottom, like and Kubernetes and Terraform, like basic understanding, and
Mhm.
Ansible also basic understanding, like how we can do and what are the stuffs there.
And how about AWS services other than Oracle and maybe
Yeah,
RDS?
so in AWS services, I have implemented like IAM and VPC configurations and usage of some other services uh, hosting the application directly on the AWS and various other things like S3 buckets and all.
Okay. Okay. We'll discuss all that
Yeah.
shortly. So this is all about your experience and all
Yeah,
right.
and I have also worked on like side projects on iOS development actually. So
iOS development
developing,
as well.
yeah,
Okay,
mobile app.
all right. Okay, fine. I got a good idea about your profile. So let's get started with the discussion, the questions that I have, and we'll try to go through few scenario-based questions just to understand what kind of thought process and can you, given a situation, can how will you go about it? So
Yeah,
let's take a few scenario questions as well to start with. And then we can, from those questions, how you respond, we'll probably look for other detailing in those answers.
yeah.
So first question around, you said containerization, you have worked on Jenkins, Docker. What is microservices based architecture? How is evolving? What sort of
So
experience you have with that?
like I said that I have only got the training and worked on the small tasks. So accordingly, I'm going to explain. So like microservices are those architecture which are divided into smaller parts, and those are the small services which are loosely connected and they communicate with each other. So they are kind of a unit, small units which are interacting with each other. Multiple services are connected. So this whole as an architecture making up the microservices.
What are
So
the two major motivations for microservices architecture?
like mm, okay, major okay, so yeah, so during the testing process, if we'll see, so if we have divided the architecture into the smaller parts,
Mhm.
let's say we have a unit wise divided. So let's say a unit testing. So in that, the testing becomes easier because we just need to check small modules, and then that can help to improve the testing procedures, because as a whole architecture we are not testing, we are testing it module wise or a small unit wise.
Okay.
So that thing makes an easier part. And integration also we can do, like to check if some services are connected with each other, how they are communicating. So we can test it like that, so how they are communicating with each
So
other.
before testing, you develop also, right? So development also
Yeah,
becomes easy because
yeah,
you are
because
working on a smaller
module
entity.
small units, yeah.
And the other major motivation that you can answer or suggest is that they can scale independently. So
Yeah,
if
scale
one
up
of
will be there independently, right?
these are two major reasons to go for this kind of architecture. There are
Yeah,
other benefits as well, but then these are the two. Um,
major ones.
okay, all right. So now you have been assigned a task to do a CI/CD for such microservices architecture. How would you ensure testing, deployment of these microservices while maintaining the stability of the system? What are some of the strategies you have when you do CI/CD for these microservices
Okay,
architecture? Yeah.
okay. So we need to implement like CI/CD for the microservice architecture application. So we can follow few principles here. Let's say if we are following the SDLC procedure here, software development life cycle. So let's say we have a requirement procedure. So first of all, we need to gather the requirements, analyze it, communicate with the business team and various other teams, like how we are going to develop the architecture, what should be the scope, limitations, and what are we planning actually, and how we can test it, and deployment procedures as well. So after gathering all these requirements, we need to like design the implementation. So in designing process, we can design our implementation of testing as well. What kind of testing we will going to do for the application? Let's say unit test, integration, contract testing, or like performance as well. And we can also check for the implementation of CI/CD architecture, like what kind of tools we are going to use, how the pipeline should be, and what kind of infrastructure or cloud procedures we are using to deploy, implement those services.
Okay.
So, and then the third phase like comes in the development procedures. So all the developers will be there to develop the programming interface and how the code will going to work. And the main thing in the development phase is like the coding standard to be maintained and what kind of architecture they are using in the application. So let's say I have an experience in the iOS development as well and some small websites as well. So let's say like we have MVC architecture, MVVM architecture. These are the different types of architecture which is good practice in the development. So developers can use either of them to deploy to develop their application, and they can even use the version controlling systems to maintain their code bases so that different developers can work simultaneously on the same project by making their branches accordingly. And then the testing phases come. So in testing phase, like we can do automated testing, the ones we have decided like unit test,
But
integration.
how is all this related to CI/CD process? How would you do that?
So, yeah. So if we are implementing the CI/CD process, so once the developer develop the code, it pushes to the GitHub repos or any branch controlling version controlling system. So there the pipeline is set up. Once the code pushes, pipeline triggers. So continuous integration is applied, and I have a experience on Jenkins. So Jenkins, the application will going to get built, continuous delivery or deployment. So once the integration done, that pipeline brings the code to the Jenkins, and then the build happens, and the application will go live. We can check it on the DNS or the IP, which we can get from the cloud services. So we need to open the ports.
How, but you did not talk about testing now. Earlier you were talking about a lot about
Yeah.
testing and other
So
things.
testing also like in continuous integration itself, we can set up the pipeline for automated testings. So in that scenario, we can do the testing as well, and then the deployment phase comes.
You talk a lot about, in general, I have seen talking about testing and all, even
Yeah.
Oracle related projects. Are you in testing domain by any chance? Is that your?
No, like my domain is actually integrated enterprise solution. So this is like a support and maintenance
Okay.
project. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right. No, don't worry. That's fine. We'll move on to the next question. Try to keep the have the control around that question. We don't need to go deviate a lot away
yeah.
from that situation. So the question is like, suppose as a cloud engineer, as a DevOps engineer, you arrive in office on a day, and one of your critical application, there is some production issue. It has crashed. You are not able to log into that critical application. What are the key steps that you would take from there on?
So okay. So first thing like we need to analyze the situation like what's the application, how is this impacting the users and business use cases, and then we can proceed to check like if there is any backup we can roll back to previous versions, because this happens in my case also in the working environment. So there's one application which crashes due to some patching activity by DBA teams. So due to those activities this situation may occur. So we should have a rollback strategies. We can roll back to previous version, and even we can also do like if we have a secondary environment, if any crashes happen, the secondary environment should come live as a second option because the primary one is not working. And the developers team, we can communicate and we can work on the bug fixes. So what's the issue, how we can implement, and so that can be discussed with the development team, and then we can use the secondary.
How will you investigate the issue?
So we have some troubleshooting methods like we can check the crash logs, error messages. Uh, Last time when it ran successfully, after that next scheduled run, how it got crashes. So those logs will always going to get generated in the system. So we can capture those and then we can discuss with the integration or development
Do
team.
you also send out any communications to
Yeah,
users?
yeah, we need to alert the stakeholders and other teams as well who are
Mhm.
directly connected with the application.
Have you done any that kind of communication or your
Yeah,
leads?
so in my current project, so there was a scenario. One of the critical database, so it is not as a whole application, but it is a critical database, a part of that application. So it was not working. We have noticed from past few weeks. So, and the reason we found after checking the logs and the metrics, like this was due to the DBA patching activity.
Mhm.
So those patching actually causes this issue for the database to not run on its schedule. It's a weekly running database.
Okay.
So to we have got the metrics and logs. We have just shared this all details via communication channel with the business teams and various stakeholders. And
Okay.
then yeah.
All right. So I think and my next question was that maybe this was a DBA issue. What if you rolled out an application in production? Everything
Yeah.
was fine in the lower environments. How would you handle if that application is not stable in the production after the release?
Okay, so let's say yeah, so if the application is not able to run in the production environment, so mm, uh, we if in production environment it's not working, then we can like roll back it to some extent to the previous versions if we having because every time the versions will be there before deployment. So deployment strategies we can follow here. If an production failure is happening, so and debugging is the we can use the debugging methodologies here to like analyze the logs to check.
So
Yeah,
logs analysis can help you what the issue is, but the immediate action may be to roll back
yeah, for
and
temporary fixing,
for
so that
temporary
the
fixing.
yeah, so that the users or business case won't affect.
And if it is happening continuously, then we look at the rollback
Code
strategies
changes.
or how we can.
Yeah.
What do you know? Understand what deployment strategies are possible in this scenario? If it is regularly happening for one application, how would you handle that?
Uh, okay, so deployment strategies like yeah, so deployment strategies for that we can have a different environment setup. So let's say we have a blue-green environment strategy. So two similar kind of environments, let's say, and we can divert some traffic in those environments, and we can test the new deployment or development things in one environment, so that may very minimal use effect will very
How
minimal.
is that going to happen? How will you ensure some traffic goes to one environment and some traffic goes to the other?
Okay, so uh, okay, let's say one example in AWS. In AWS, we have different AZs in different regions. So we need to set up one region where we can deploy the machines on different AZs. So in different AZs, let's say one is a primary and one is the secondary. So uh, we can divert the traffic to those AZs. There are various services like we can use the Route 53, and we can use the load balancers so
Mhm.
that the traffic will be diverted to those AZs accordingly when if one is affected due to
No,
any
but that
reason.
is the affected situation.
Yeah,
In this situation, both are live and both are healthy, and you want some percentage of that's what you are highlighting, right? Some percentage
yeah.
will go to another site. How would you ensure that? Because both are healthy.
Okay. So, okay. So diverting the traffic.
Never mind. We'll move on to the next question because you mentioned a lot about OCI and database migrations. I wanted to understand what would be your approach when you identify some sort of performance issues with an application in production. You identify that the
Yeah.
application is not performing as good as it was doing yesterday or previous days. So there are some performance issues, maybe because of some database misconfiguration or whatever. So how would you go about investigating that kind of issue?
Okay. So let's say the application was not working, but it was working earlier. So
Application is working, but it's just performance.
performance issue. Okay. So performance issue, yeah. So we can check performance issue by few things like uh, the queries which are used to do the performance for the application or for the database itself. So we can do some optimization there for the queries, and we need to figure it out like why it becoming the slow. There may be a join condition which is causing an issue there, or mm, we have join conditions which can create the issue for the query slowness, and so we can work on those joining conditions to improve it, and we can apply the indexes as well so that the query retrieving process will become a little faster. So we can use these techniques to try to solve the issue of the uh, in the working of the database or application.
Have you used any or come across any tool that can give you this kind of information? Like some of the queries are slower than yesterday.
Uh, no, basically I've not worked on the proper tools for that. So directly like we used to do the query and then the process of retrieving how it is taking time. So like
Are
that
you
we have.
aware of any such tool or which category of tools will give this information?
Not sure on that.
Something like I application performance or APM tools can give some idea, right?
Okay, yeah. So like I'm not sure like Grafana can help in this or not. So maybe because in Grafana we can capture the logs. Still, I'm not sure 100%. Like we can use that for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have again a database related question. So you suppose you are working on an application and you are trying to deploy that application and it requires database changes.
Okay.
And you understand that database changes, as in schema changes, have impact uh, how you handle that kind of scenario. Have you come
Okay.
across or maybe any experience of CI/CD with database schema changes.
Okay, so okay, so CI/CD process for schema change. Mm. So okay, so in this scenario, like so in this scenario, like we have the database, and okay, so see, okay, I'm not remembering like the process, but the thing is like this databases, if having an issue or like we need to apply the CI/CD for the schema change thing. So let's say if their schema needs to be changed, so first of all we need to make sure that database replica should be present with us as a secondary option. We should have that, and if the schema changes has to be implemented, so we need few environments strategies here, like development stage, UAT, or pre-production and production, like those environments we need. And once we are testing the schemas and deploying them, so we can do in the lower environments first, so that the validations, UATs should be done successfully, and then we can roll out to the
You mentioned
production.
about replication. What is the advantage of that?
Okay, so let's say by any chance we have done all the testings and all procedures followed, but still due to some issues in the production, if it comes, then we have the secondary opinion, like we have a replica of that database,
But
so
isn't
we can
replica going to be in sync with your main production, and then that will also be corrupted,
okay,
right? That is what replica is, right? It's a
yeah,
copy and it's synchronizing in parallel.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like that.
So that
So
if you mess up with your production, the replica is also going to
so
be.
yeah. Mm.
All right, no worries. We can move on to the next scenario. Very
Yeah,
common,
yeah.
like in your Jenkins or in your other CI/CD projects, you usually manage your database related username, password, secrets. What is the what sort of experience you have, and how should we manage usually those kind of
Okay, so to manage those passwords and secret access keys and also like I have an learning experience in that. Like if we take an example of AWS, we have a service there, IAM, to manage the roles, so that the users what we create there, they have the access to the few services only, and there we use like least privilege access principle. So we can use those procedures to provide the access to the users, and for maintaining the secret keys, securing the password, we can ask the users to regularly keep on changing their passwords. And we can also apply the industry standard encryption algorithms, like transport layer securities or HTTPS. So those algorithms can be implemented to do some securing.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
Slightly away from the real question, but still.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. So the next question I have is around is you mentioned you are working as a consultant, so wanted to understand your consulting sort of skills. So, for
yeah.
example, in one of the project, customer is asking you to, maybe you also worked on something similar. You said OCI and AWS. So if customer is giving you a couple of services in their cloud environment and ask you to compare and give you a detailed report, so what sort of information you would include there? So they are asking you to compare maybe Oracle on OCI and Oracle on AWS.
Okay.
What report would you
So
send to them?
yeah. So okay. So first of all, as a like tech consultant, my responsibility will be like to provide the information properly to the business or clients. So let's say we have a Oracle cloud and the AWS cloud thing. So we need to compare their services, like what are they offering first of all. Let's say applications like in AWS like S3 and IoT analytics. So all these things, services are available in both the cloud platforms or how they are doing it. So we need to provide that information. And then there comes the scaling up scalability performance issues. So how these cloud environments will going to affect our application, and how the scale up can be handled, or we can do that. And the third important thing is like what is the user community, how big the user community is for these two cloud platforms. So this particular factor can help us to decide which cloud we can take up, because the user community is very important, like because we can get any kind of tech support there as well. So which cloud we need to choose. And so we can also we need to also make sure that pricing should be in the range. Yeah, like pricing, let's say AWS, we all know that AWS is the fastest one, as what I have heard and what I have understood. So, but the pricing models can vary in all the cloud platforms. So that plays a major role when it comes for the business part.
Specifically for Oracle, any input you have? Pricing on Oracle, if somebody is trying to run their Oracle workloads, should they look for Oracle Cloud
Oh,
or AWS?
okay, so as per my experience, like I'm not much aware on the details of the Oracle pricing strategies. So, but still, I can compare like this Oracle. Okay, like this Oracle can be like implemented in the AWS, but the pricing strategies, I think, much better on the AWS, but not sure overall on that.
But if you see as an external person, you will see that Oracle would probably be charging less on their platform. Somebody coming from AWS will have their own margin added on top of what Oracle is charging. So it probably is going to go up in AWS.
Yeah, that's the scenario. Like pricing may differ, but it varies depend on the services what we are using.
Yeah, this was specifically for Oracle RDS.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, yeah, other services, yes. If you talk about S3 and its equivalent in Oracle, maybe yes, AWS can be cheaper, but specifically, I wanted to know about the Oracle itself. Never mind. I think I have covered all the questions that I wanted to discuss with you. Do you have any questions for me?
yeah, so like as per my experience, so how would you suggest me to improve more in this scenario? Because I'm literally interested to move into the DevOps completely, or as a cloud engineer completely. So how can I build my career in that, and how should I proceed further?
For
Because
first, I
yeah,
need to understand what is your current role. What sort of role are you playing? Earlier in the interview, you mentioned you are helping in the migration, but from your
yeah,
experience, you are not that close to database and database technologies as well. You are some of the database questions I thought would be your strong area, and I didn't get the very good answers around that. So that is one thing. Uh, I mean, obviously we're doing it for feedback point of view.
Yeah.
Uh, so you need to work on the skills. That I mean, that's the very genuine thing. You need to enhance your skills, your
Okay.
clarity of thoughts. You when you hear a question, you absorb that, think about scenarios and options. In the last question, you are not coming to pricing for quite a bit of time. You said you will compare product, features, user community. Pricing is the most important thing that customer would look for. So you were able to think about it during the interview. So you have a good listening and speaking skills.
Yeah.
Uh, but technical skills wise, I felt that you have very overview of stuff. Have you done any course somewhere or any sort of training somewhere?
Yeah. AWS course I have taken up.
From
So
where?
from Learn Code Online.
Okay. How
Yeah.
long the course was?
Course was like around 50 hours something. That
Okay.
course is. Yeah. Covering all the like most of the services for the
Overview
AWS.
of services, right? High
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. Like
So
how we are developing.
take up some project in that space, and project should be at least medium complexity, if not complex.
Yeah.
Don't take up very basic hello world or deploying a nginx container on somewhere and that kind of thing. Take up something which has an image and has some database uh, requirements, and then
Okay.
try to build slightly medium to complex kind of scenario. Do that, build, deploy, containerize,
Okay.
scale,
Yeah.
uh, and then try to make some database changes as well. So keep it slightly complex. That would help you answer the questions where you were a bit hesitant right now, not that clear
Yeah.
conceptually. So that is the suggestion. And there is no other shortcut or any other way to learn
Right.
cloud
Yeah.
and DevOps. DevOps, maybe you can follow any course and all, and still you can answer a lot of questions about DevOps. But for cloud computing, you need to build that. I didn't go into any complex question of comparing different type of load balancers or any such complex questions about routing or that sort of thing. These were very high level scenarios. How would you
Yeah.
do this? How would you do that kind of thing? And you need to, in reality, you will need to know a lot more in the monitoring,
Yeah.
alerting those that space. A lot of tools are there for database performance related stuff. So you can, if you want, you can probably look at uh, building your database skills, and then a lot of opportunities in the cloud around database, because any application, whether it's containerized, monolithic, or all, we talk about all these patterns and all. One common
Yeah.
thing in this is database. So the database is going to be there in some flavor or the other. It's always going to be there,
Yeah.
right? So you can focus if you have spent your last couple of years in more in database side, you can always look at that option.
Got it. Yeah.
All right, Kanish, so we will close the discussion then.
Yes. So yeah.
You have my contact details. You can reach out anytime.
Sure. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.